Will be nowhere near as exciting as the last hour.
Brother Mick, I just hope the name isn't reflected that you're going to kill us all.
That's right. No.
All right. So what's the title of the paper?
Mine is a reflection on Belinda Moore's white paper.
Okay.
Membership is dead.
Is membership dying, you mean?
No, I put membership is dying. Just to change the name, words around. As Pope Leo XIV stated in his opening address to the faithful in St. Peter's Square following his election, identifying artificial intelligence is a main challenge for working people. But I'd like to take that further to include all modern technologies which are challenging us as an order. And I'm going to skip through my paper fairly quickly. So if we can ask any questions at the end then. So that gives you an idea of even the concerns at the high level of the Pope. And I'll move on straight away. We've talked about these generations before. The reason I've put these in colour is because we're really targeting people in those green squares, even though most of us sit up in the baby boomer generation. And in the paper it goes on to what these people like. For example, our real target audience is probably the millennial generation, which are now aged 29 to 44. They do remember when Amazon sold books, and they're the first generation to know a childhood both with and without the internet. So that's where the world started to change. And following on from that, we have the other generations which we're also interested in. Generation Z, which is going to be our next really interesting group of people to come through and will really challenge us. But I won't go into that too much more than just leave that with you. And as Francis alluded to before in his presentation, this paper that I'm talking about originally came through the KSCA National Development Committee, which put me onto it, got me thinking when I read it. So I did some more research on it. Most of us are in that generation of the baby boomers, and how we deal with these people to get them into as members of our organisation is the basis of that paper that was written by Belinda Moore. And for those who have never seen her, that is a paper, that is her. She lives in Brisbane. They work out of a company called SMS. And I rang up to ask about copyright on this, and I was told by the company, not her company, but the company she works through, that whatever she publishes is free rein, anybody can use it. And I'll just jump to the end straight away. If you go to the end of my paper, there is a link to her SMS address, and in there you'll find 10, 15 papers, which I found most of them very relevant to pull pieces out of. She's talking about organisations, not associations, not a voluntary group as such as ours.
Brother Mick, the article in full is in the booklet.
Yeah, the article, there's two versions of the article. One was the one that came out through the NDC, but then I found a white paper, they called it, under the SMS heading. And there's also another paper that I pulled out for our own state distribution, where I only pulled out about 3 or 4 pages of highlights rather than the whole paper.
Yeah, that's it,
Talking about these younger generations, Belinda Moore was talking about how we as baby boomers, we advocated for change, and there's a fair few blokes here around my age, and we know what it was like when we were growing up. We wanted to change the world. We were pretty successful in doing that. We've got the world how we want it. And the problem now is we don't want it to change. We want it to stay the same. But these younger generations are now going and here's some of those younger generations here, are now going, they're from Western Australia, as you might realise. Do I need permission to publish that?
No, yeah, it's copyrighted, yeah.
So as we try to influence these young generations, we have to realise that they don't like the rigour and the formality that we've got ourselves into. As we can see here from what we've just discussed, we're a very constitutionally rigorous group of people. And I think if we had 10 young people sitting over there today, they'd probably left by now. So we need to change the way we act. I don't say we need to get rid of our constitution, but we do need to try to attract suitable Catholic men. And we've had many reasons for not doing that, and I'm not going to go into them, the less number of men in church and all that, but we all know that we've got legitimate excuses. But I really think our biggest challenge is we need to look from their point of view. We're trying to attract young men to us. We want young men to be attracted to us. We need to change the attitude that we don't go looking for them, they should come looking for us. And the way that they do that nowadays is via the internet and Facebook. South Australia's done a very good job there. I use it as a main source of information myself, as being one of the younger people. And I think that this is what we need to start to change, and we've been talking about it, but we really need to get onto these modern technologies. But the other day, when I was looking at this paper, we had a federal election. You wouldn't think we'd have much information for us out of the federal election. But Robert Schwarten, who was a minister in the Labor government many years ago in Queensland, he went down to the local booth to give out how to vote cards. Young people don't take how to vote cards. So I'll read you quickly what he said. This was a write-up in the Courier Mail, so it was published. It's not just something he's got up himself. And this next photo, that was the photo that accompanied it, which was very telling, I thought. If I ever needed reminding of my irrelevance these days, it was there in spades last Saturday as the Millennium voters shunned the ancient tradition of taking the how to vote cards or profit timidly then. But I did make the effort to inquire of a half dozen young voters as they fled the polling booth as to where they got their political information. All pointed to their phones. A reminder of those of my vintage who furiously write our views in mainstream media like this, that we have no influence on the millennium voter. But those who think this group is not fair income does so at their peril. This group just sees the world differently. They see the future through a smudged windscreen of high costs, low paid jobs, non-secure work, and just about everything from housing to education, slowly but surely inching from their grasp. This was a group of people to which the Prime Minister, Alvo, offered hope and a sympathetic ear. As an opposition leader, Patrick Dutton never got anywhere near their thought process. The challenge for Labor is now to hold this mob. They are restless, they are unhappy, and they are champing at the bit to see a rosier future. My observation, those politicians who find a way to engage with the millenniums are going to be in Parliament for a long time. So that's very relevant to us, even though it comes from a whole different sphere. And just to carry on with my words, we need to embrace the modern technologies that allow us to communicate between ourselves, with our wider community, which includes members of the order, our Catholic communities, all Christian faiths, and other religions and cultures. The time frame is establishing this platform, as someone just stated very soon before me, is not too long into the future. In 10 years, all the members who are currently on our state councils will be retired, and nearly all people here will probably be finished their term, be looking to take a rest and get some new people in. And Belinda Moore in 2024, which brings us more up to date, wrote another paper involving association membership models. Associations are driven by a purpose, not just by the need to recruit and retain members. And that, I think, is our problem. That is our drive, is to recruit and retain members. The membership model is the strategy that connects membership directly to your purpose. It outlines how members fuel the association's mission, how the organisation engages with its members, the value it delivers, and how it ensures long-term success. And I just finished with, we know that when the order was established here in Australia, the purpose was very clear to all Catholic men. We need to regain the clarity of purpose and to maintain the relevance of the order for our members, both present and future. Thank you. Any questions? Any answers? Yes, Peter.
On the third page of Belinda's fine print article, there's a heading that might say, I'll paraphrase a bit. People need volunteering opportunities.
Yes.
Now, that hasn't been mentioned in the next paper summary. Comment on does not mention promote volunteering opportunities. Now,
And they also like short-term projects, so they can just dive in, do something and get out. There's a lot in that paper, that's why I included the whole paper.
Yes, but we didn't pick that out and put it in the summary piece that follows in the next thing. And I'm trying up in the 19 Victoria Northern District 8, we're trying to get parish activities supported by the Parish Priest and Parish Council, advertise them as parish activities, get a list of actions that have to happen, whether it be a parish dinner, it's got to be advertised, caterers found, this, that and the other, and go to the church on Sunday and say, I want to run this show, you're an accountant, can you help us look after the finance, money in and out, that sort of thing. You go and ask people to volunteer for one of the things on your list. And if you do this for sufficient parish activities over 2 or 3 years, you're going to get an interface with these people and you can move places.
Very good point, but like I say, there's so much in there. When I read it, I was just blown away by that. Even, that is 10 years, 2012 that was written, but it still applies today. I just couldn't believe it was so relevant to the way I think we handle our organisation. Yes.
Brother Mick, there are probably two ways in looking at this. I know it's easy to fall for the trap of thinking, oh, we've got to become like Gen Y or Gen Z because that's what we're targeting. Oh, we've got to try and appeal to them. How about what about trying to do it the other way, of making them us appeal to them or our way of life? There are a lot of things about Gen Y and Gen Z that aren't all that appealing. Like the culture seems to have gone downhill quite a lot when you look at their cultural tastes and that reflects downstream into their lifestyle. I mean, we think about the fact that we used to have a more prosperous economic life and a richer cultural life. I mean, it was a more creative culture that we used to have. Nowadays, we don't seem to have as much of a creative culture as we once did. I mean, for the most part, most Gen Y and Gen Z don't even know what gender they are half the time, and we're trying to appeal to them.
Well, we do have Catholic...
Also, too, their knowledge of history isn't that broad, isn't that big? When you don't understand your history, you're dooming your future. They don't have that basis of understanding of history, and I think it's almost reflective in like modern trends. People are foregoing their history, but in doing so, they're losing their culture. we shouldn't be just going the easy way and trying to just, let's appeal to them. I mean, methods of, adapting to methods of communication is important. Now, a good example of that is back in the 1960s, the use of television. Name someone who made great use of television in that time. Bob Santa Maria.
Yeah.
Point. Now, Bob Santa Maria was as traditional and conservative as you could get politically, culturally and all that, but yet he was able, for decades, he was able to utilise a modern technology at the time and use that to, and he was very influential. I mean, that show ran right up until the 80s and 90s point of view. So it's not necessarily just because, I think we fall into the trap that we've got to appeal to them by catering and kowtowing to them, but then they're looking for something, in many cases, and it's interesting because people in their early 20s are looking for tradition. There are a lot of people in their early 20s that are bucking or sort of becoming countercultural and looking for something for tradition, and they're the ones that seem to be embracing tradition the most. That's where we could.
What I'm really getting at though is not appealing to them, is communicating with them. To have the information that they access. Like there's some figures I had here in June 2023. Online news attracted 79% of users. TV 58, audio 42, and the printed newspaper 18%. So if we're constantly trying to put out bulletins on hard copy, we're looking for 18%. Whereas if you're online news, you're at 79%. So that's just what I'm saying we need to change, is how we communicate.
I would say that there's room for both. And I would argue for the defence of hard copy and hard print when it comes particularly to documenting your history.
Oh yes.
Because I found that where you only rely on digital, you're more likely to lose your history than you are if you have hard copies.
Gentlemen, I might just start wrapping up there. I think,
We're right?
unless you want to make one more comment.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brother Mike. All right.